I'm an IT manager. For the last 12 years, I've been in the IT business. I work for a medical research organization. We have installations across the country, and basically my job is to make sure that all the sites can talk to each other, all the infrastructure is running, and everyone is happy about their IT. And that is why I'm here today to talk to you about wheat farming. So, I had just turned 30 some time back, and I'd done everything that people in Nairobi do as you're starting your lives. You finish your high school, of course, then you finish your college, your university. You look for the first job. That one usually you don't last a year. You go to your second job, buy a nice car, and put loudspeakers in it, and live or aspire to live in a nice neighborhood. I did all that. I was down with Biggie and Tupac. For those of you who can remember who those people are. So I did all that. And so one day I was sitting with a friend of mine, a colleague from high school called Ken, and we were watching a Premier League match, the English one, as most people do. Okay, most people at my age were doing at that time. And as we were watching the match, the commentators were sort of mentioning how much money these people earn per week. You hear of figures like 100,000 pounds a week. And of course, you'll convert it very quickly into Kenyan shillings. At that time, the pound was still about 100 shillings. So I'm asking Ken, these guys, they earn 10 million shillings every week. You know, for us, we could not even imagine how that is possible. And you also wonder, if I had 10 million shillings on Monday, and I spent it all, and then next Monday, someone else give me 10 more million shillings. You know, it's crazy. You know, you can go mad. In fact, Ken would tell me, Alex, please stop. You're going to go crazy just thinking about those figures. So anyway, you know, you dream about such things, and you wonder how you're going to buy your house, because of course you've already bought the car and you've done all the other things. So the next thing most of the time is, you know, a house. You don't want to pay rent all the time. So your option, of course, most of the time is you go for a mortgage. And you all know how the mortgage works and the interest rates. Or if you're lucky, you know, you call your dad and you tell him, Dad, I'd like to have a flat. And he tells you, okay, next month, I'm going to give you the keys. So, unfortunately, some of us, we are not that lucky. And we can't run the marathon and win $1 million or whatever it was. So basically, we were discussing with Ken, and Ken was telling me, look, you know, I come from a farming family. I come from Kitale. And I've seen money being doubled. And there was no smoke involved. No one told me to close my eyes. No one told me to say abracadabra. No one told me to say hocus pocus. And yet, I grew up in a family that farms. And, you know, you are an IT manager, you know, and it would be almost, there's a disconnect between IT and farming. But next time I'm going to Narok, join me. And we try it out. You know, you give it a try and see whether it works for you or not. So basically, that's how I got introduced into wheat farming. And very quickly, wheat farming is a very straightforward, I would say, venture. It's not as complicated as many other types of crops that you'd want to farm. And basically, the reason why he chose wheat farming is because Narok is only 2 hours away from Nairobi. It's a very scenic drive. It's a drive that every time I do, I look forward to. Apart from the last time when the road was swept away by water, and we spent almost 6 hours between 6 p.m. and midnight just waiting for the road to be cleared. So apart from that, it's a very scenic drive, 2 hours out of Nairobi. It's something you can do on a Friday evening, come back on Saturday or Sunday. And the best thing about growing wheat is almost all stages are mechanized. Almost all. Actually, all the stages are mechanized. You can choose to do things by hand if you want, but all the 5 major stages or the steps that involved from the planting to the time you harvest is fully mechanized. So we drove to Narok, and that's where the car was stopped. And Ken told me, this is going to be your farm. And I'm sure, okay, maybe you have not driven on the Narok road, but you have driven on other roads to Mombasa or to Mount Kenya. Okay, Mount Kenya is different because it's a bit green up there. But when I looked, I was actually looking for the farm. Yeah? Because all I saw was just scrub. Yeah? In fact, if there was a strong wind, you'd get the whatever they're called, the devils, whatever it is. And then, of course, you have your cows trying to eat the non-existent grass. And yet here, Ken was telling me, look, I want you to take your money and put it in this place. And I'm gonna help you double or triple it. So anyway, it's someone I've known for a long time, so I knew he was not trying to con me. Although I was really wondering whether he had been influenced by something for him to try and even suggest that we could do something with this piece of land. But the truth is, that is the farm. And as we'll see in some later pictures, there'll be a whole transformation. You would not believe that this is the same farm that you're seeing here now. If you look at the left-hand side of the corner, I don't know if it's very clear, you'll see a winding road going up the picture. Use that as your reference point, because later we'll see some pictures of this place, and the only thing you'll see is that road. So, okay. So fine. So we stopped at the farm. And of course, I got over the initial shock of this is what we are going to transform. And the next thing, I met my landlords. So that's Parit. I call him my Maasai brother now. And that's Parit's brother. And they are the ones the first farm that I leased in Narok was from him. The Maasais, I don't know if there are any Maasais in here. Big up. So, the Maasais, one of the joys about this, what I do and farming, is that I get to immerse myself in the Maasai community. When I go to the farm, I have to sit down with Parit and actually, ask him about how his cows are doing, how his family is doing. The cows come first. How his family is doing. And you get to really appreciate their way of life. You don't, before you deal with them on a face-to-face basis, you can really never tell the kind of challenges they go through, and you never really appreciate their culture. All that we see, of course, is what we see when they're trying to promote Kenya, and we see the red shukas, but we don't know much about that. But anyway, I'm digressing. So we meet Parit, and depending on whether the past year was good or not, he leases the land for you at a certain price. Most of the money that he gets from the land, he uses to take his kids to school, to buy fodder for their cows, because during the farming season in Narok, all the Maasais move, I would say 90% of their cattle towards the Mara, where there are no commercial farming. And ironically, they have to go and hire the pastures at that place from other Maasais so that their cows can have something to eat. So you'll meet the Maasai, you'll negotiate with him, he'll list for you the land. Depending on how much you trust him, you'll do a contract with the lawyer, or you can just go on by a handshake, how it was done a long time ago. And that's Parit and his cows and his kid. And the next thing, of course, as I said, highly mechanized, straightforward steps. If you do it once, you can do it over and over again with your eyes closed. So very quickly, we plow the land, we harrow the land, we plant. So that's a planter. One side you get the seed, the other side you get the fertilizer. And that's the process of planting. Once you plant, I don't know what would be the right words to use, but once you plant, you pretty much start being very religious. And you start praying every night before you go to bed or before you close your eyes. And you pray because if it does not rain, then all the money that you've put in the ground will literally just disappear before your eyes. And at this point in time, of course, there's the whole debate about global warming and whether it's man-made or not, and whether it actually occurs. And what I can say is, having been in Narok for 6 years, this is my 7th year, there's definitely been a change in the weather patterns, whether that's attributed to global warming or not, or whether it's attributed to the Mau being destroyed, I will not be able to tell. But I can definitely tell you that the weather patterns are changing. Our meteorological department, I would say most of the time, I want to be very diplomatic, but most of the time, they don't get it spot on. So the kind of weather forecast you get is like, okay, tomorrow it's gonna be sunny with chances of rain. And that's what there's no day they'll tell you tomorrow it will rain or it will not rain. So, okay, the only thing that I can say that they are almost accurate about is predicting when the rains will start. So most of the time they'll tell you, okay, this year the rains will delay by a month. And most of the time they get it right. But apart from that, from the day-to-day weather, as I said, it's a small prayer every night. God, please, I need some rain tomorrow in Narok. And you take it from there. The other thing I might mention is that when you go to the internet and you go to the internet websites, the weather websites for most of the big organizations, you'll find that they have very detailed weather for the European cities, for the American cities, for Asia. But when it comes to Africa, apart from South Africa, you do not get any detailed forecasts. So I don't know, maybe that's something that should change, or maybe that's something the government, because farming is a critical activity, and maybe they want to invest in it. Anyway, so we plant, and then we pray for the rains, and if it does rain, it's not very clear, but you get your first, you get your germination. The germination, depending on how you prepared your land, can be good or bad. At that point in time, there's nothing much you can do. Now, this was the picture you saw at the beginning, the farm where I couldn't believe that we could plant something. And that's how it looks like probably 4 to 5 weeks after germination. So the whole place gets transformed. If you drove on the Narok Road going towards Kisii in January and and stayed there for a month and drove back in February, and you had never been in that area, you would not believe that you're driving through the same place. It literally transforms. It becomes green, it becomes lush, and it's for miles and miles and miles. So it's not just like a small patch that is green and the rest is not green. So that's wheat at probably about 4 or 5 weeks. After this, all you need to do is spray. And first you spray the herbicides to kill the weeds. If you do it at the right time, you kill off all the weeds. The wheat sort of like overpowers the weeds, and after that you don't have a problem. After that, you'll spray another time for the pesticides. After the pesticides, you now spray the chemicals for, what are they called? I've forgotten, but it's for now the anti-rust. We have a big problem with rust, which is a recurring problem. You spray for rust basically, and after that, you're good to go. So after that, it's just rain, 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 rain. So while we use the tractor, my neighbors use a plane. Yeah, it's there's a stark contrast. Yeah, I would call that elite farming, while ours is just the normal man's farming. So I do pretty much on average between 50 and 150 acres, depending on the years. My neighbor does something like 5,000 acres to 10,000. So that's wheat. You can see the heads now. This is probably 3 or 4 months after germination. That's me in my wheat farm. That's wheat almost getting ready to be harvested. And we usually occasionally have visitors. And I'm not going to be very diplomatic here. When I see them in my farm, to me they are pests. And given the chance, I would like to hurt them very badly to drive them. Because what they do is, when the wheat is still green, they'll eat it. At this stage, they cannot eat it, but what they do is, at night, they make it like their bedroom. So you can imagine 30 of them, they come and they start rolling around in the farm. So it's a waste. Anyway, that's wheat almost about to be harvested. So this is wheat rust. I don't know if you can see the dark color in between the rows. That's, I think actually in wheat, that's the biggest problem we have. And finally, we harvest. What happens is during harvesting, the guys who are buying the wheat come to the farm, and you count how many bags you've harvested. They give you your money in cash there. You put your money in your socks, and you put it in your t-shirt. And from there, you get into your car, and you go to the bank. So, I don't know whether it was beginner's luck, but after my first year of farming, the next year I managed to buy this tractor, cash money, without having to borrow. And basically, that shows you the potential of farming. I'm an IT manager. I find time to farm. You out there, you're experts in your own different fields. Don't put blinkers on. Don't close your eyes to other opportunities. You can apply yourself in so many different ways. Because my time is up, I'll just leave you with some lines from a song that Giuliani sings. So, Giuliani says, "Wale to the rao." And I ask you, when you drive through that small village, and you see the mamamboga with hamburger, or you see a tractor parked by the roadside, do you even give it a second thought? These are the people who feed you. Can you imagine if they went on strike for just one day? It would be a catastrophe. So that's what did they say? Wale to the rao. So, yeah, who's laughing now? But, no, not that one, not that one. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. He goes on to say, exponential potential. That is an exponential potential. My first year, I invested 500,000 shillings. When I harvested, I got 1 million shillings back. So in 6 months, I put in 1 bob and I got out 2 bob. It's double the money. The last line from Giuliani. He says, 1 million from 10 bob, I think he says. Where did the zeros come from? The zeros come from the ground. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.